Good morning, everyone. Today is March 4th, 2025, and this meeting of the Council Subcommittee on Water Issues is now called to order. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Rusing.
Here.
Member Fruworth.
Here.
And Member Gambogi is absent.
Thank you.
First item 3A, approval of the February 4th, 2025 Council Subcommittee on Water Issues meeting minutes.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from February 4th.
Second. Shall we do a show of hands?
Passes 2-0.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we did a show of hands and nothing came up on my screen. I didn't vote.
I didn't vote either.
There it is. Yeah, thank you.
Passes 2-0. Next item, presentation and discussion regarding the 2022 Water Management Policy, current residential and non-residential water budget overview for January 1st, 2025 through February 20th, 2025.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Subcommittee on Water Issues. I'm just going to see if our presentation will pop up. They were just getting going there when I left that room just a few seconds ago. So let me see if there's... Well, I'm going to go. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I just want to apologize. Seems we're having some IT issues
Yeah,
here.
issues going
The
on.
gremlins are running amok.
As they're, hopefully this will come up here in a second, but I'll go ahead and get started a tad. Okay, so as you all know, per the current water policy, here we are. Okay. Water Policy Guidelines 11 through 13 established that a semi-annual water budget is prepared for residential and non-residential uses. So the budget was set on January 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2025 for residential projects, 25 acre-feet, and for non-residential projects, 25 acre-feet. So this is just a summary of the water that has been used in that allocation from January 1st to a cutoff date of February 20th, 2025 for this period. So from the first table that you have in front of you is our residential table. And as you can see, it's been pretty quiet on the residential front. We have not had any, we have not administratively approved or through this committee approved any water yet as of for this budget period. So we're still at 25. Now we're on to the non-residential projects table. Again, pretty quiet. We haven't had any administrative approvals at this point in time. The only thing that's gone through is, if you recall, we had the Emory-Riddle Student Union building up earlier this year. That was approved. That took 11.33 acre-feet of water, leaving us a total of 13.67 acre-feet left in the non-residential budget for this period.
Brian, I have a question.
Sure.
About the development impact fees. They don't go into effect until, is it May?
I'm not sure exactly. I see Chelsea Walton here, so maybe she can help us out exactly understand when those fees come into play.
Hi, good morning. Chelsea Walton, Community Development Director. So the development impact fees were effective January 1.
Okay.
However, there was a grace period given
Yes.
for projects that were if they had applied before December 31st or on December 31st, they have until June 30 to
Okay.
pull their building permit. So we do
Okay.
have a lot of folks that took advantage of that program, and we're working with them presently.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, and then for informational purposes, projects that are under existing contract are not associated with the two budgets, the residential and the non-residential budget, but we do track them as they come in, and they're shown on this table in front of you. So far, through February 20th, we had 7 projects that were approved under existing contracts. 6 of those projects were in existing groundwater subdivision, and we had 1 non-residential project on the list. The total of those projects is 1.05 acre-feet allocated for those projects to this point. So that's kind of a summary of where we're at in our water budget for this year through February. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Okay. Any comments, Ms. Ferguth? Any comments from the public? Okay. And I also want to acknowledge Sandy Griffiths is in our audience today, monitoring us from the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Thank you, Sandy.
Next item, WSA 25-008, water service application for 7.62 acre-feet submitted by Granite Basin Engineering on behalf of owner Bradshaw Senior 3 Prescott LP. Location is 11004193X.
Okay, so yes, we have a water service application today. This project is located off of Stenson Road, just off of Bradshaw Drive, as you can see in the vicinity map here. My understanding is this is the 3rd and final building of this complex, this senior living complex. So the project consists of 42 units of low-income housing tax credit project. So the Granite Basin Engineering did a demand analysis for this project, and with the 42 units, they came up with a water demand for the building of 7.06 acre-feet. And
Brian,
then
let me
yes.
interrupt you there.
Sure.
Why didn't they use the usual apartment of 0.12 element variable? Because I did the math, 42 times 0.12, and I got 5.04, which
Yeah.
is considerably less.
Yeah, so I called up the engineer of record to ask them about their demand analysis, and they went the route of using a fixture count and then using our general engineering standards to provide water based on that fixture count over the time period. So in general, if an engineer comes in with a more detailed analysis based on the number of fixtures, the actual usage of the project, we will accept that from the engineer as a more detailed understanding of what the water allocation would be so that we have that. The 1.2 acre-feet for apartments is based off of an average from our billing records for kind of our entire area. So it's a good approximation, but with this, in this particular aspect, we like to go with the engineering of records estimates so that we have the best information possible.
So when you talk about fixtures, you're talking about sinks, toilets,
Yes.
washing machines.
Yep. Exactly.
and,
Everything using water within that building.
Because these are just one bedroom, they're all one bedroom units. And just going from personal experience, at my house, I average about 50 gallons per day. And I see that each over 55 senior resident is getting 150 gallons per day. I seen that doesn't seem to be.
It might be
Realistic.
it might be slightly on the conservative side because it's using standards and those type of things. But we are allocating the water for their usage, and then we're within. We have the ability as we monitor. We know that our water resource management model will over time account for the actual water usage. So we always have a snapshot of how much water we are actually using when we're doing water management and trying to determine where we're at. So, there's nothing set in stone about this. I'm not putting aside exactly 7.56 or 7.62 acre feet for this project and doing an accounting exercise with our water. We're moving towards the more dynamic analysis where, we're considering the actual usages and making those determinations. So,
Okay.
So that I'm not super concerned about that overestimate on this because I'm not setting that aside for them. So with that, so they have an estimated 0.56 acre feet for landscaping. That is based off of a low water usage drought tolerant plant list that we have. Giving a total of 7.62 acre feet for this project. You have a site plan that's part of your package there, kind of showed the area. There we go. And general usage for this particular project. So
I have a question. I didn't have a chance to go out and visit the site, which is affectionately known as up behind the old Dairy Queen when you're in this area.
okay.
And I know it's very hilly. Is there going to be a lot of grading involved? Is there going to be stormwater drainage, that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely as they go through the permitting process, they'll have to meet all of our general engineering standards for stormwater control. They're all outlined there. They have to mitigate any stormwater increases based on their property. They have to make sure that drainage is being discharged at historical locations at rates that don't exceed velocities, at rates that don't exceed quantities. So all of that will be taken care of as they move through their permitting process.
I remember what happened to the parking lot at used to be the Compass Bank down there on Gurley on the corner, and they had a huge amount of stormwater drainage.
Yeah, it can be a challenge when you're putting rooftops and asphalt down. However, it's on the onus of the engineer to design systems that will release that water in a way that doesn't impact downstream property owners.
Thank you.
Sure. And I'm sorry, my button seems to be, I think they're doing it for me back there, so I think I'll go ahead and I'll flag them. Yeah, I think, so anyway, here's just a little summary, a summary of the application for today. 42 unit low-income housing project. Indoor use estimation of 7.06. Again, just an estimation at this point. 0.56 acre feet for landscaping, of giving a total of 7.62 acre feet. We look at this project in terms of the water budget. It falls within the water budget without needing an appeal. The project infill components to it. From a staff recommendation standpoint, we have no objection to moving this forward to council for your consideration. So, with that, if there's any questions or anything I could answer.
Councilwoman Lois. Okay. Is the applicant here?
I do not see the applicant here. I called them up this morning to see if they were coming. Unfortunately, the engineer was not available for me at this point in time.
Okay, because did you tell them we have a kind of a general policy where we like to ask questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I try to make sure that all the applicants and their engineers know that. In this case, I was talking to the engineer of record about a week and a half ago. But to be honest, I may not have mentioned to him the exact date of this meeting, so I apologize for that. But I have been working with them through this project. I wanted to make sure I understood their demand analysis because I thought there might be a little bit of question on that.
That's a big reason that I would like to speak to the applicant about this project, because their demand analysis, I know they're from Phoenix, and it seems they want a pretty generous amount of water that I really don't see why we didn't apply our own standards to it, and we're kind of allowing them to tell us what they want. I mean, I support this project, but I think I just have some questions, and I'm unhappy that they're not here today for the discussion. So I don't know, I'm thinking about maybe we should postpone it to the next water issue subcommittee.
Another option would be
Meeting
to
in
go
April.
back to our standard, apply it for this project, approve that today, and if they want to appeal, then they can come back.
Certainly, and
like
we
that.
can make sure that when it goes to council too, that they are there so that they could answer any questions you have. But that's definitely what you can do at this point. We could approve
Okay.
So I have an
5.04.
amendment. I'm sorry, are we going to do the .12?
No, we're going to, apply the 0.12 for a total of 5.04
plus
for
the
the
point-
residents.
Yeah, plus the .56.
Yeah, for a total
brings
of-
us to 5.6.
Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion to recommend forwarding WSA 25-008 to council for approval with a revised water allocation of 5.6.
Second.
Passes 2-0. Next item, WSA 25-009, a water service application for 13.58 acre-feet per year submitted by Michael Taylor Architects on behalf of the owner, YH Development Properties. Location is APN 10913-001D, 500 South Marina Street.
Okay, so deja vu all over again. As you recall, in our last WIS meeting, you guys reviewed this application. This is the Marina Street Apartments off on 500 South Marina. The project itself is located at the end of Marina Street, as shown on the vicinity map up here, encompassing both sides of the road. So last WIS meeting, this project was before you and proposing 90 units apartment complex. You guys recommended moving that forward for approval to council. Since that point in time, the applicant has decided that they would like to move forward with the rezoning of this project needed to get up to 106 units. So they asked us what they needed to do, and I said we should go ahead and go back to the Water Issues Subcommittee with that new request, and then you can move forward from that point. So that's where we're at this point in time, moving forward with the 106-unit apartment complex instead of the 90-unit complex. So the water, they reissued another water demand analysis. I think it was in your packet along with the water service application. With the revised unit count and using the 0.12 acre-feet per acre average for apartments based on our water resource model, comes up to an estimated usage for the buildings of 12.72 acre-feet. The amount of landscape for the project is unchanged from the last time. Using the low plant or drought tolerant low plant list recommendations comes out to about 0.8 0.85 acre-feet for landscaping proposed with this project, giving us a total of 13.24 acre-feet for the project. The request and last WIS was 11.66 acre-feet. So with that, it did that slight bump up of water, moved it over the threshold where it's above 50% of the available budget, and that requires an appeal per current water policy. So, appeals, the applicant had choice of either waiting for a time period when there was enough water in the budget. In this particular case, that wouldn't make sense because it would always exceed the 50% threshold. So they have asked, the applicant has asked for the second possibility, which is to go forward with an appeal. They created an appeal letter where they provided what they feel is the benefits to the city of for this particular project that was included in your agenda packet for your review. With that, that's kind of the a summary here. Here's basic site plan showing the project and the buildings associated with it. And the summary at this point, they are getting credit for a previous usage of 0.33 acre-feet for the project. We based off our billing records, so that came out to a total demand of 13.24 acre-feet per year requested for this particular project. And appeals are at the discretion of the Water Issues Subcommittee. So today we have representatives from the applicant's architect and the applicant themselves. So any questions that you might have for them, they're here to answer, and I can try to answer any questions you might have also.
Yeah. First, Lois, do you have any comments or questions for Brian?
Well, I did double check this morning on our council agenda plan that both the rezoning request for going from 90 to 106 and our water service application are both on the agenda for the 8th. And so in this particular instance, I just wanted to, and I just double checked with the minutes to make sure that we did approve last time WSA 24-013, which is for the 90 units.
Right.
This is for the 106 units. And as far as I'm concerned, the basis of the argument and the fight is going to happen on April 8th. So I don't see, no matter what the council decides on April 8th, if we pass this today, they don't have to come back. Council will make all the decisions all together on April 8th based upon it. So I'm trying not to make this be a long, drawn-out process, but because we've already talked about this project. I think the most interesting part, and I read about it, but that's what I'm interested is understanding it. I think it was in your appeal letter, talked about the reason for doing this or looking at this was regarding, I think it said financing or other kinds of economic reasons for going up in the number. So that would be the only thing I'd be interested in better understanding, though you're going to explain it to me again on April 8th. So, but you came here, so I'll ask.
And I'd like to make some comments. This property is very blighted. It's an eyesore. It drags the whole neighborhood down as far as property values. And this apartment project ticks all the boxes. It's an infill project. It's close in for people that have jobs. They can walk to work. And I support this project. I think it's just a matter of getting it, working out the details. And originally I was concerned they were going to just use that, the area that was going to be rezoned as just a giant parking lot and then have all the other units on the other parcel. And I see from their new site plan that they've kind of readjusted the density, and they're utilizing that parking lot now, so there's an apartment unit on that. So I think that's going to be a better quality project, better use of the property in total. And my only question I have, if you want to go back to the site plan, I just want to make sure this is, this isn't a certified, surveyed, engraved in stone, certified, like I said. It's just a site plan. We still are going to have many conversations with the neighbors about what they would like to see. But the building on the left is, that backs on the south, is that going to be 2 stories still? Because originally it was 2 stories, and then the building on the other side, on the right, where the cut in the hill is going to be, that's going to be 2 stories also?
And before you get started, I'm Chris Rozier, Assistant City Attorney for the City of Prescott, and I just want to make sure that we're only focusing on the water here. I know that there's going to be a little bit of crossover on that, but we're here today just to focus on the water, so just make sure those answers to questions focus on the water.
Thank you for the focus.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Michael Taylor, 118 South Pleasant. Members of the commission, thanks for having us in today. The stories are all listed on that site plan you'll see there. The building to the west and the south are 3-story. Building to the far south on the east parcel is a 2-story, but they're all listed on there, the number of floors anticipated. Also wanted to make a clarification. I understood that we were not on the April 8th agenda for council, that we were looking at a May council meeting.
And that very well could be. I just look at what the city clerk sends us as what her plan is, and this was as of yesterday morning when she issued it. Okay. So if the decision has been changed, I just wanted to make sure that we were going to eventually have a discussion about the bigger project, not just water.
Certainly. And depending on the actions of this commission today, maybe we'll look at trying to stay on the April 8th agenda.
It's neither of us make the decision of what gets on the agenda. So that's between city staff and the mayor.
And then you had a question about the economics, and I would defer to Dane Beck for that answer.
So, as you can see from the packet, we tried to follow the water issue subcommittee guidelines to point out the economic impacts of this project. I agree with you, Councilman Roosing, that this project has been blighted for years. I've been watching it for 10 plus years. I got a TB shot in this building when I was 17 years old and volunteering at the VA. I've pulled septic permits out of this building, so I know the history of this building very well. We are very excited to move forward and clean this up. To date, we've spent $250,000 on asbestos and other abatement, working towards that goal. So we're fully invested in moving forward. As to the change from 90 to 106, everything right now is a challenge. Interest rates are high, building costs are high. And the other thing we think we can do is there's break-even points to where we can have on-site management with apartment buildings. If we can get to that break-even point, we have somebody on-site 9 to 5, 5 days a week. We found those create much better projects for neighborhoods. There's somebody responsible there all the time. Not that our projects aren't, the amount of money we invest in these, we attract and screen for really good tenants. Because if there's a problem tenant, it affects us more than it does anyone else, because we don't want the people paying us rent to be upset. So we work really hard to create strong, viable projects that are good neighbors. We've done this for a long time. We believe in it. And yes, there are break-even points that are crucial to hit. There are moving targets. And if we can't get to those break-even points, projects can go different ways. You can get different uses that aren't as viable to the community. And we think this is very viable to this community. Walking distance to downtown. I employ professionals in my life, and housing is hard. It's very much a challenge. And this is something your nurse, your teacher, your fireman, they can get in for a couple of years till they can figure out the next thing. And it'll be safe, it'll be attainable for them, and it'll be a good spot for people living and working in this general area, of which we have a lot. Happy to answer any other questions.
Lois, any comments?
Thank you very much.
No, like I said, I think this is a wonderful project. It's a wonderful use of our water allocation. And I like the fact that you're going to have on-site management. I think that's a great idea. Thank you. I see we might have some public comment here. Excuse me, Lois? No, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I think we have some public comment. And if you would like to comment, I just want to remind you, try to keep your comments to water, and maybe any other comments, maybe save it for the city council meeting. Thank you. Yes.
I do not have any public comment cards.
All right, that's okay. We don't need a card. Just give your name and your address.
Good morning. My name is Paul Landis. I live at 338 Outlook Circle, which is a property that adjoins this. I'll keep my comments very brief since it was brought up here on the break-even point. This project originally 90 units, 7 buildings, 2 stories, received the unanimous approval from the Planning and Zoning Committee. They came back with 106 units, 3-story buildings, and it went down by a vote of 5-2 because they didn't like the way it looked. That's the plan that was voted down by a vote of 5-2 by the Planning and Zoning Committee. Thank you.
Any more comments? Okay. Do I hear a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, one more.
Good morning. My name is Marty Verrier, and I live at 559 Wilderness Point, which adjoins the, I'm going to say, I'm very bad with directions. I can say it a million times. The southeast corner of the property, where there will be a 2-story building. And my question is, when I read the minutes, or not the minutes, but the letter from the architect, Michael Taylor, I read that this fulfilled the housing. Now, I understand it as fulfilling housing for temporary occupancy and not the workforce housing, which I thought was really the stronghold of what we want to develop in the area. So I'm a little concerned. Can somebody answer that for me? Does this fulfill both requirements or what? Because again, you know, as I said, I've heard over and over again, we need workforce housing. This is a temporary situation. And so I would like to understand it better.
Thank you. We have to talk about water and how it relates to our water. So I think we're kind of getting into the weeds. Yeah, thank you. But you can make your comments at the council meeting. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I make a motion?
Okay, let's have a motion.
I move to forward WSA 25009 to council for approval.
And should we say how much water we're approving in that motion?
That is 13.5 acre-feet for the potential of a 106-unit apartment being approved by council.
What is it? I have 13.24.
0.24. Yeah, that's what I have too.
Yeah, it's 13.24. Correction.
Very interesting. In the background, very first sentence, it says, if approved, this application will provide 13.58 acre-feet.
I'm sorry about that.
And so does the subject line, says 13.58
I think
acre-feet.
that's without subtracting the allowance, the 33.
Yeah, it's not it's subtracting the 0.33 from it.
Subtract
Apologize for that.
0.33.
Okay, so let me amend my motion. I move to approve or to forward WSA 25-009 for a total of 13.24 acre-feet for a 106 unit apartment to the City Council for approval.
Okay, second.
Passes 2-0. Next item, presentation, discussion, and update regarding PFAS and scope of request for statement of qualifications.
Good morning, Steve Wolfers, Utilities Manager. I'm here to bring a subject that we've discussed many times, but this is like our quarterly update for this, but we have some new stuff coming out too, so it's going to be an exciting spring. To start off, I'm just giving you an idea of where we are. These are the last samples that we took for PFAS. This would be for the fourth quarter of 2024. As you can see, the individual wells from Chino, and they all blend into the EPDS 11, which is the Chino tanks. So when we say Chino well has 3.84 parts per trillion, but then that's also being mixed with all the other wells and coming out with a 2.79, which has been our goal, is to be below the 4 parts per trillion at that point. The other three at the far bottom are the airport wells, which are their own independent EPDSs, so we don't have any opportunity to blend there. As you can see, the only one that's out of has any trouble at this point is Airport 5, which we've known for quite a while. So in addition
Steve,
to this,
I have
yes,
a question.
Sure. You bet.
Do you have any numbers? You know, we've been testing these wells regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Is the trend going up, going down, or is it pretty much staying the same with our PFAS levels?
From quarter to quarter, we see small differences, but nothing substantial. Certainly nothing that's going to take
Okay.
a well like Chino Well 4, where we have a non-detect to where it would be
Okay.
not in compliance.
Okay. So thank you. I was
You're welcome.
curious.
Of course. So we've kind of been put this on the back burner as we had other folks working towards this. So we, as the city, put out a statement of qualifications to try to help us with the study. And that was published in November and December of last year. The pre-proposal conference, which was mandatory, was held in December of last year. And 10 to 12 firms showed up. It was a very packed room. Out of those, 6 applied. And we went through the proposal opening and we scored. We had a committee of scorers and we ended up going to pick out a single one, which we are currently negotiating scope and fee on.
And the firm that you can't say their name yet.
I'm looking at the lawyer. We're in negotiations. We're still in negotiations.
Let me ask you a general question.
Sure.
That's what I thought. Do they have a resume of working here in the state locally, or
Absolutely.
Okay, so they're locally.
They're from Phoenix.
They're from Phoenix.
And yes, they have spent a lot of time up here. They teamed up with a great team of experts.
So that we're looking at getting bids on installing some sort of a filtering system, or would this be something with ultraviolet radiation or a light, or
That's a great question.
system are we looking at?
We're asking the same questions. Where do we want to go?
Okay.
So this study will help us achieve that.
Okay.
I have a little bit more in here. So
Okay.
With our scope of work, we requested that they evaluate 10 wells. At this point, we only have 9 on our list, but you never know if we need to have something else tested. So we have that open. We will be evaluating the single site treatment as well as the whole flow treatment. So In Chino, since we have some wells that could be themselves out of compliance, do we treat that well, or do we treat the entire, the entire flow of coming out of Chino? So those are questions that we need to look at financially as well as operationally. When we go out to the airport wells, well, being that they're their own entity, we need to decide if we plan on treating each individual well, or will we adjust the distribution system so that we can treat at one well in mass? So move all the water to one place and treat from there. Those are things we're all looking at, as well as potentially if we can't get AP5 out of or in compliance, then what's it cost for us to look at another well? So that's kind of what we go through here, looking at different blending sites. The main focus is to get AP5 back in service, and everything else is going to be secondary to that.
Now, let me clarify that. That airport well 5 is downstream from the airport, from the underground water flow. And my question is, would we be better off, because it's obviously never going to be in compliance, would it be more cost effective to just cap it off, walk away from it, and drill another well in the area that's upstream from the airport, and might get, better, more compliant, or maybe a zero well, because it's obvious anything downstream is not going to be good.
That's correct. What we're trying to work towards is to see if it's cost effective to do that. Drilling and equipping a well is quite expensive, as is putting a specialized treatment system. So we need to look at those financially. And we do intend to continue putting wells out at the airport. And so do we need another centralized system, or are we going to treat individually? And those are all the things that we need to look at.
Yeah, and what's the time frame for this study? I mean, when are they going to have some numbers and we can start moving forward? I assume we're going to be applying for grants. This is going to be
Correct.
Expensive.
Our goal is to have something within 12 months, a complete report. But we have beginning to prioritize our scope of work. So they will begin putting out technical memos on different sections that we could use as a decision-making tool, or at least a discussion. So we will see a full report at the end, but we'll have chapters as they come, as they get them done. So the teams that have been included have worked up here exhaustively, have tremendous amount of modeling information. So we are going to try to look at contaminant transport, which is what you're describing. But the question becomes, how much do we put into this study now? Or is this a multiple phase type thing? Which I see it more that way. So if we can figure out how to treat AP5, then go to the contaminant transport process and see if there's some way we can control what's being put into the aquifer, because eventually EPA plans on having treatment at the wastewater plant. So that's way down the road, but nonetheless, it's coming. And so there's some engineering things that have to be decided and figured out with that.
Yeah, my main comment about this this group, their system, whatever they come up with, needs to filter not just the PFAS and PFOAs, because there's 10,000 other chemicals out there that are also hazardous. That my stance is, if we're, I call the PFOAs the sentinel chemicals, and we have to make sure that we don't put it in a system that doesn't capture everything, and then we end up having to keep changing it and improving it. So, I think that should be their scope of work. We want something as comprehensive as technology can provide.
Right.
Actually think we should be looking at the options, so we maybe don't over-engineer, but have the option down the road to beef it up.
Well, and
from a cost
contamination,
perspective.
excuse me, following the contamination transport is a interesting science. So it would probably be a phase 2 type of situation than the phase 1. The problem is we only have so much money and so much time. And so we need to jump on the ones that we can take care of, the low-hanging fruit. And our main focus is getting AP5 operational.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
You bet. You're welcome. Let me continue on here. We will be looking at the capital and O&M costs actually for 20 years instead of 10. We had originally said 10, but the vendor felt that 20 was a much better measure. Since they do this for everybody around, they do this for a lot of people around the nation, we figure, all right, they must know something that we don't. So we're going to allow them to do it for 20-year capital cost. And then we'll do a benefit analysis between well AP5 and drilling a new well. The final deliverables will be a full cost analysis report. We're asking for how much it's going to cost in capital and O&M. Each one essentially works out to costing the same in the end when you put it all together. It's just a matter of where you want to put your big money. Do you want to put it in the capital side or do you want to put it in the maintenance side? So we're going to do all that evaluation as well. And then they'll present to you and or a council as they come up to the final report. So they can also do a public meeting. We have 2 public meetings in there. However, we define that, or the council and just define that, that's also in there. So we do have a lot of opportunity to discuss this and get input as well.
Thank you. I just want to make the comment that this issue isn't just unique to Prescott or to the area. It's nationwide, and it's, if you test it for it, you will find it. It's just permeates all of our water, unfortunately.
Chino Valley and Prescott Valley are already in the starting of design.
Yeah.
With some of their stuff.
But in the meantime, I just would like to reassure the public that our water is safe. We're meeting the guidelines and through blending.
Yes.
We were blending anyway due to fluoride levels, right?
To arsenic levels.
Oh,
yes, we blend for arsenic levels. Fluoride, we don't have a fluoride problem here.
Yeah. But it was the arsenic, so we were already blending anyway.
We have a treatment system at AP3 for the airport well, but then yes, all the other wells in Chino Valley are blended through the EPDS 111. So they all go in the tanks. That's our big challenge because we have a blending plan for arsenic. And so now we've got to do a blending plan for PFAS. And they may be in cahoots or they may be opposite of each other. We don't know yet. That's a big challenge.
Yeah. All righty. Any questions, Lois? Okay, well, thank you for that update. I'm glad that we are doing this, taking this step, and doing our research and making sure that we hire the best company and do the best job that we can.
Absolutely. That's definitely our goal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, presentation and discussion regarding potential updates to the water service applications and water policy regarding hazardous materials.
Okay, so this is a follow-up from the topic that we started last month regarding possible updates to the water service application and to water policy for hazardous materials. So, last month we broached the subject. We talked a little bit about it. And I told you that I'd come back with a little bit of material that you could review and we could talk about and see which direction we want to go at this point in time. So as I was pulling forward, I looked at our water service application with the question in mind about hazardous materials, hazardous chemicals, and I reviewed our water policy. Then I got on the phone with our water quality specialist or our water quality protection person so that I understood what they were doing and what programs the city's had going on to make sure that chemicals aren't getting into our wastewater stream. So, I last month provided you some material about that pre-treatment program that we have. So that's a permitting process that anybody who comes in and has an industrial use, has any type of usage that has a potential for chemical discharge into the system, they have to go through, fill out that application, and actually get a permit so that we make sure that the proper pre-treatment processes are being done before the water gets to the wastewater stream. So, with that, what I tried to do here for you was I tried to link some of our water service application. I understand what you want to do here. You want to be able to identify these projects in the upfront phases so that we know that what we're getting into in terms of water, and we're making sure that that all considerations for a project that has, potential for chemicals are being done. So I get that. That makes sense. What I wanted to do is I wanted to try to link it to our pre-treatment program as much as possible, because that's where they've identified all the issues. That's where they've done the research on what's needed, and also they're following the guidelines from the EPA. So I use I used that document quite a bit as I was pulling through and try to grab some language and an attempt to tie in with the pre-treatment program as much as possible. In that pre-treatment program, they identified 5 major categories of users that they focus on when they're looking at the pre-treatment program, because they found that by and far almost all of potential contaminants into the system will come from these identified usages. So those usages were food service, vehicle service, industrial manufacturing, which is a fairly big catch-all for a lot of projects, and medical facilities. So in that, what I tried to do is grabbing the water service application, I tried to identify a question there where we had like a checkbox that would identify these 5 usage right up front, and then if they do check on those boxes, more detail to add on to the WSA about their particular project and what chemicals they would be using on that. Now, as I was talking to the city's water protection specialist, he also told me that there was a kind of a special category that he follows, and that's dental offices, because dental offices, they use a lot of fluoride in their processes. So there's special pre-treatment processes that go through for dental offices. In your packet, the WSA I put in there had an additional box just for dental offices so that we could identify that up front. The one that's up on the screen right here didn't quite get through that process, so it's not there, but the one in your packet shows those, identifies all 5 of those kind of focus usages that we would want to identify up front in our WSA, and then try to get some more equipment or get some more information as we move forward. With this, what we could do too is that as I see WSAs come in and they're checked box on these things, I can send an email or a phone call over to this department on the pre-treatment to give them the heads up that that projects are coming down the road that they should have special interest in. So I think that's a plus. It gives us an extra ability to make sure that we're not something isn't kind of going falling through the cracks or missing a process. Even though I will say that they have their own. They have their own checks and balances in place at that permitting. They make sure that all the backwater connection is done by the specialist along with the pre-treatment. And since that permit is needed almost by every single permit that comes out of the city, that's how since he runs the pre-treatment program, it's pretty hard for something to slip by him through the permitting process. So I just want to let you know there are a few safeguards in place. So with that, I'm not going to read through the entire, the wrong way. I'm not going to read through the entire verbiage that I put here in the water policy for you. You guys can read it, and I know that you have your own ideas on where this should go. So this is my attempt to try to bring you some language that we could identify and we can continue on with. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate us being able to have this discussion because we definitely need to update this form concerning toxic and hazardous materials. And I look upon this form as a legal document. In case we end up in court with some questions, we can start with this document. And I'm trying to close loopholes. And I think, number one, I think it was a good idea to have the two categories, commercial and residential. And then on the check boxes, to close any gray areas, I'd like to include another box that says other and then describe, because a lot of these applicants, they're not scientists or, they're just regular employers, and they may not understand the different categories and how they would fit in. So I think that would be an interesting out to have, just other and please describe. If yes to any of the above, please describe any toxic, hazardous materials that may be discharged into the city wastewater collection and treatment system. I think that's kind of vague. I think it's a good start. And I would prefer to say, will you be discharging any hazardous materials or toxic chemicals into the city sewer system or stormwater drainage system? Be more specific. And then if yes, please list. And then please describe how you plan to filter or mitigate. I think we need to give them more opportunities to expound upon what they plan on doing and give us more details. And then finally, I think the application should just have a disclaimer stating that the applicant, not the city, will be responsible for all costs for removing any hazardous materials or toxic chemicals from the sewer and stormwater systems prior to discharge. I think we just need to lay all of our cards on the table with this initial encounter with the applicant, and then it'll give us a heads up as to as it works its way through the system. I'd like to have some comments from legal. If you have any comments, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, I think that you're correct that we need to make sure that all of our cards are laid out on the table here. The more specificity, the better. In most cases, I know that one of the comments you made, you said what kind of material we'll be doing there. I think leaving it a little bit more open than that in that particular area would be better, because it's just may, because obviously when they're building, they might not know everything that will happen, but they will definitely know what may happen. So I think bearing down on it, like what you were saying, works in most cases, but on that specific one, we definitely want to leave it may, because that widens out that area and it helps us protect, the water, which is, I think, the purpose of, the city and especially this subcommittee. So legal would be willing to take a look at this as well once you've added the comments in that Chairperson Rusing has suggested, and we can add to it for you to show them at the next meeting.
Yeah, and then tune up the wastewater collection and treatment system. I think that's kind of vague. Be more specific and mention sewer and our stormwater systems, because wastewater collection, flushing your toilet, I don't think is wastewater. I guess technically a wastewater, but I'd like to get the word sewer in there.
Okay.
For the average person off the street.
I would make a suggestion too.
Yeah.
And I'll bring some wording back, and we can continue. We can get this. I would like to word it in such a way that I'm not implying that they're going to tell us how they're going to treat the system. Mm-hmm. They're going to follow our regulation, code, and guidelines on how they're going to treat the stormwater and the wastewater. So that's just my first initial flush with your. I understand what you're trying to get at, and I just want to make sure that it
they know
also
what our
implies that
policies are.
exactly that everything is following that. So I'm going to try to work it in that direction a little.
They just can't make something up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments?
No, I remain completely aligned with you,
Yeah.
Councilwoman, about that we need to have this application beefed up and try and no matter what, leave no option unturned that we are asking about hazardous toxic materials into all systems, whether they understand the wording or not.
Yeah, and then also we can back this up with some wordage in our water management policy too. I think they should, everything should be connected in step.
Definitely. So as I kind of update the water service application, I'll update that language I'm suggesting here in the water policy. We'll get it all wrapped up at the same time.
And the water service application amendment doesn't have, we can do that administratively, but the water management policy needs to go to council.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Okay, any other comments?
No, I'd love to get this wrapped up and in effect with the
Yes.
next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, give it a shot.
Yeah.
Okay, any general announcements?
Got a little fun one.
I'm going to let Tracy start off with hers.
Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Tracy Beasley. I am Project Resource, Water Resource Project Manager, one of two. So I've been asked to give you just a brief look, make sure I'm heading this the right way, at what we've been doing on social media. So it's my understanding in recent times we've sort of gone back and forth, a little bit of social media, then not so much. And so we're trying to hit at least 2 messages a week and have been pretty consistent with that. And so just giving you some examples if you haven't had the time or don't really spend that much time on Facebook. The same messages are going out to Instagram and Facebook. So just a few fun slides here. The first one I'm actually excited about. I always ask questions. My questions were, can we have access to our analytics? And so I now have access to our PrescottWater.com analytics, as well as the social media, so that we can sort of follow the trends and see what we can learn about who's visiting and what they're interested in. So this slide is just a screenshot highlighting one of the posts that we had, and you can see on the right-hand side, this is what's Facebook from this slide, 1,302 views, 866 reach. And so as I do presentations and annual reports and things, we'll bring some of this to light and share. One of the examples that I loved with our website, I don't have a slide for this, but as soon as I got in there, I looked at the 2024 numbers. In the last 3 months of the year, over 900 of 1,400 visitors came to our website. So I can't make a true correlation, but it's pretty exciting because that correlates with the effort that we've put in to getting more people into social media and our website. So we started out in the fall with some of our rebate programs, trying to have just a couple of examples of templates here. So this will be our first ones. Then we moved into winter. All of these slides, of course, have some text that go with them, but I'll let you go visit Facebook and go check that out. So we did our frozen inboard pipes. Then I started a series. Are you wasting water without knowing? Are you using more water than you realize? With examples, I've started embedding videos. So if someone were to click onto our slide on social media, you can actually click to some of these instructional videos. And then just highlighting more of the resources that we have. I really want the city to know we're here to help you. We're here to talk through issues that you might have related to saving water. And we have a lot of free opportunities for you. So as we move into the spring, we're expanding those free resources into some DIYs for very basic irrigation, leak fixes, and samples of high efficiency type items. So I'll let this slide sit here for just a second. It is a little bit busy, but we really did want to get that information out. We're starting to think about our commercial folks, and so this is the orange slide on the right. Bringing those folks into the fold with understanding water use and rebate options. And then sort of what's coming up. There are a lot of opportunities over the next couple of months for connecting water conservation to things that are celebrated across the country. So Groundwater Week, Plumbing Day, Fix a Leak. April, of course, is Earth Month, Lawn and Garden Month, Water Awareness Month. And these are the first events that we have coming up for the year. As we move into the spring, you'll actually see me around the city.
Excuse
Yes,
me,
ma'am.
Tracy, did I hear you say lawn?
Lawn, L-A-W-N.
Are we promoting lawns?
We are working with people to be very efficient with their.
Say, when you said lawn and garden, I was like, what?
Yes, primo, right? People are out there. So if they're out there, we want them to understand efficiency and reduction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So first events that are coming up, and then you'll see me out there a lot more this year as we roll into the summer and other small public events too. So just a little highlight.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you for taking this on, because an informed public will understand the rationale behind saving water. And I just can't stress, we've been in the grip of a 30-year drought, and I've lived in Arizona most of my life, and I have never seen a winter go by here in Prescott where we did not have to shovel snow. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is like the first time in my life. So I'm hoping that maybe this month we get some late spring snow dumps, but it's very critical, and we need to keep the public informed so that they will be more cooperative and are aware of our precious resource, which is our water. Lois, any comments?
Well, the only other thing I was surprised, I think within the last week or two, we got an update on how many people had actually signed on to the water app if they have the new smart meters, and how few people have gotten on the app. And since I've gotten on the app, I'm getting more conscious. My husband keeps asking me, any leaks? Any leaks? And it's so cool. So for me, I would love for us to start pushing out some social media about, because there's been some next door related comments where people think that Big Brother is watching them. And it couldn't be anything further from the truth. We really want people to be empowered with their own data to manage themselves when it comes to water conservation. So if you could put some kind of a fun, I like your humor, also it always works on social media. So if you could put some fun spin on getting people capable on WaterSmart if they've got the new meters, or to be excited that it's coming.
Yes. And I appreciate your comments. And actually, over the last few weeks, I've taken my first big step into understanding what our system is. I got into our system. I now have an account with one of our buildings. So I am officially a user. So I have that side so that I can explain it. Supporting utilities in a grant that they're seeking, providing insight and support with that. The viewery is going to have the AMI highlighted as part of that in April. And as we move into the next fiscal year, we'll be building and growing the support that will come out of our office, i.e. mostly me. But yes, it's very high on our radar.
I have a question for you. You know, we have for the installation of those meters, you know, there's a plan. And I think my neighborhood's last, but that's okay. Are we installing them on our own city buildings first? Do you know? Because I think we need to set an example and be aware of how much water we are using as a municipality.
Good morning. Yes, we have begun installing meters within the city facilities. It just takes time, obviously, but we have one in our water department. We did it on Virginia, right?
Correct.
Put it on Virginia Street. So yeah, we're trying to manage our program. As you probably noticed, they've moved kind of towards the center of town now. And so they're not out in what we call Route 4, they're now Route 1. So they're right around your neighborhood if you're in central Prescott. So
Yeah, great.
hopefully they'll be coming to you soon.
And we got another grant, right?
We are working on it. We will be,
sorry.
yeah, we're trying to
Don't want to jinx it.
we have 2 days to finish it. So yes,
Okay, all righty.
we'll be working on that.
Well, get busy.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Any more comments?
Okay, so we have one last general announcement for you, and that's an update on water bills going through the state legislature. I wanted to make sure Tracy was first so that she got a very bright and exciting general announcement. So this one, this is exciting stuff too, but it's in a different way. So, as you know, and we talked about earlier, NAMWA is one of our main supports for figuring out. NAMWA, Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, is one of our main supports for figuring out what's going through the legislature in terms of water bills. So at this point, this numbers might be even a little, because they kind of change almost on a weekly basis, but I think it's fairly close to 122 water bills or bills related to water at this point going through the legislature. NAMWA has basically, at this point, we've sat down and reviewed every one of them to try to determine from a regional standpoint whether we're going to support, oppose, or stay neutral on those bills. And then, of course, I'm using the window of the city itself in terms of trying to track any bills that might be important to our area or have an impact to us. As I was going through them, I kind of and reading through just a few things that struck me. 8 bills had the word subsequent AMI in the title, and that makes sense. We've been, as you know, Wilcox AMA has just gone through. It's a big topic in the state in water at this point in time. So there's a lot of bills trying to address either gaps or make sure some things are specifically addressed in the new AMI. So that's a big theme of the legislature this year, is the subsequent AMI bills. Those don't particularly affect us here in Prescott, but 4 stormwater bills had stormwater in the title, and I was glad to see that. I think that's more than stormwater was in bills in the last legislative session, so I'm hoping we're seeing that type of projection where we're really thinking about stormwater as a water resource or from the supply and from aquifer health standpoints, and not just a flood control standpoint. So I think that's actually a good trend. And there was 2 bills with PFAS, but I'd have to say that honestly, after reviewing both of those bills, I saw very little in terms of support for treatments or mitigation or education, awareness in these bills. They were really very, very isolated to specific issues. So I was a little bit disappointed with that trend at this point. I'm not going to go over 122 bills for you at this point in time. I grabbed a handful of them that I thought were pertinent to the area that you might be interested in. As you go through, if you hear about a bill or have any questions on anything, shoot me an email over, and I'll make sure to try to get you updated on what's going on with that. Starting off, we had the Big Chino Subbasin Verde River bill. This one is in our area. It would allow water from the Big Chino Subbasin to be transported to the headwaters of the Verde River within the Big Chino Subbasin. So, long story short, we have in state statute we have the ability to transport water out of the Big Chino into into the Prescott AMA. It's one of our transport basins. It acts as an alternative supply of water for us when we need it. And this bill would amend the language in that to allow it to be transported to either the AMA or the headwaters of the Verde River.
Is that for recharge?
It would be there's very little information available in the bill itself and that I could find, but it implies that it would help regain capacity within the headwaters of the Verde River by having an option of being able to pump from the Big Chino subbasin to the Verde River is how I would read it. It's currently in the Natural Resources and Energy Water Committee in the House. Right now
I thought I heard this one was pulled.
If you heard it,
Representative
then you've. I looked this morning on the inquiry. I did not, or in the Arizona Legislature has an inquiry website. I didn't see anything that indicated it was pulled, but that doesn't mean that it's going through those channels
That was what
in
we
some
heard
way.
from our, what do you call those?
Our lobbyists.
Lobbyists,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
So,
I think I might have a little bit more information on that later in the week.
Yeah. If you
so
get
I'll
more
keep you tuned on
information, I
that.
appreciate it, because I kind of was like, "Hooray! It got pulled." Okay. So if it hasn't, let's get back on.
We'll do. We'll keep
Thank you.
tracking on this one, and we'll have an update next month on it. Right now, NAMWA is opposed to it because we just don't understand it. We don't understand exactly what the usefulness would be. We don't see any science behind its particular request on it, and it would change state statute that affects our AMA. So we're very cautious on bills of that. But we'll stay tuned on that one. Next one up for you, I just got a stormwater bill that I pulled out that I thought was very interesting. HB 2571 would allow for provisions of physical availability credits for stormwater recharge within an AMA. So this is something that NAMWA has talked about quite a bit as kind of moving forward in the right direction. There's got to be a lot of details on stormwater, and the hardest part about it is that it's not a consistent source, right? So there would have to be some rules in place. There would have to be procedures involved in order to be able to use stormwater as a physical supply when you're doing an assured water supply or trying to determine a supply for a community. But I think there's ways to do that, and these bills that encourage that kind of move us towards that direction. Unfortunately, at this point, this bill is moving nowhere from what I've seen. It hasn't had a vote. Quite honestly, most of them haven't. Most of them are just kind of sitting around. Water is a hard subject in our state.
And I believe our lobbyist group, State 48, they keep an eye on these bills too and let them know where we stand.
Definitely do, and then they're letting us know when they hear something or see a bill, and they ask us what we're thinking about in terms so that they understand what positions to be taking.
Yeah, they're doing a wonderful job
They
watching out for our best interests.
They are. Next bill, SB 1249, groundwater pumping measures and reporting. Another bill that kind of follows along the lines of where NAMWA feels that future legislation and future regulation should be going is it would require measuring and monitoring for non-exempt wells over 10 acre-feet. Again, this creates more tools for ADWR to understand what the true water situation in the aquifers are outside of the AMAs, which has always been a problem, and anything that we feel could grant more data, provide more information for how better to regulate water in the future, we support that. Again, this bill hasn't had any movement out of committee yet. HB 2319, private property design regulations and prohibitions. I pulled this one specifically because this is a bill that would limit the ability of a municipality to use WaterSense certified products for conservation purposes. With our rebate program, we actually encourage WaterSense.
What's the rationale behind this one?
You know, the rationale behind this is that that adding these the cost associated with having a product that is regulating the water is somehow reducing the open nature of the market to allow and increases the prices on housing and commercial buildings. So by removing these restrictions, it would create a more open market, reducing costs associated. We don't feel that that's really the case. A lot of WaterSense and WaterSmart are now a lot of times the actual standard versus the outlier in terms of fixtures and sensors, controllers for irrigation, all of those type of things associated with water. You know, we've been using these things for a long time now. It's so they've really been integrated in. So we opposed, NAMWA opposed this bill because we're trying to keep on the track of moving forward with efficient water. You know, I think Tracy will tell you that, you know, the shower heads that drip to 6 drops of water on your head per minute, 30 years ago are now amazingly efficient, very, very nice for showers, give a great, afford a great shower and save water at the same time. The technology is moving in that direction. So we're trying to oppose those bills because we want to keep going in that direction. And the last one I have for you today is the Rural Groundwater Management Area bill. I pulled this one over. It doesn't have a direct effect here in Prescott because we're in an AMA and we're regulated by ADWR. But our mayor has specifically shown interest in this particular bill, and NAMWA has specifically shown interest in this bill because it impacts the area all around us, and we're all kind of in this ball game together in terms of trying to utilize our water effectively so that and sustainably for the future. So this one would create 5 rural groundwater management areas. It effectively is following some of the guidelines, some of the solutions and things that came out of the Governor's Water Policy Council's recommendations from last year. So it's kind of a regurgitation of that bill to try to see if we can move forward. It would rescind the Wilcox Basin AMA, so because it would be able to replace it with one of these rural groundwater management areas that would probably be a lot more effective for that particular area.
And that was the voters that approved that AMA, right?
No, the AMA was created by the director, actually. It did not go to a public vote.
Okay.
Yeah. So this one it's in the Natural Resources Committee. It's there. There hasn't been any movement on it at this point in time. There's a lot of great things in this bill. Some of our NAMWA communities did have some concerns about some of the language and how it would affect them. In summary, a lot of the communities along the Verde River want to make sure that there's a complete understanding of how surface water in the Verde River ties to groundwater. And they wanted the language to be a little bit more detailed in that aspect of it. So they asked NAMWA if they could request that some of these concerns be addressed in the bill and new language come out. So Ron Doba, our executive director, made that request, and he's working with them to see if we could do it. Right now, the bill isn't moving anywhere. It's still in committee. I will say that the counter bill to this, which is, bear with me just one second, which is Senate Bill 1520. which is basically kind of for lack of better terms, there's people who support this bill, and there's people who supported an alternative bill from the last legislative session that would try to accomplish the same things but through different avenues. And that SB 1520 bill is a kind of a counter bill to this that has moved out of the Senate. It was voted, and it was voted 4-3 out of the Senate, so it'll be moving to the House at this point in time. The concern with that bill on NAMWA's standpoint and a lot of other agencies is that it's not a statewide comprehensive bill. It only addresses 3 basins. So it's really just a kind of a Band-Aid bill in that respect. NAMWA feels it's quite light on conservation standards. Hopefully maybe the sponsors of that bill and the sponsors of this bill can get together and talk, and we can at least get something that would kind of start the ball moving in the right direction. Because I don't know if that bill is going to move it very far in the House, and it definitely probably won't. The governor's office is not thrilled about it. So it has hurdles too. So yeah, hopefully, and we'll see. I'll keep monitoring on this, and we'll see if we get any movement, if we get any changes in language or any kind of compromises that might get this thing going forward. Certainly hope so. Those people out in the non-AMA areas, they're facing huge challenges with water right now. So we need to support them as much as we can.
Yeah. Well, that's a start, but our state legislature, there's just so much politics involved with water, and with the lobbyists, and we all just need to work together in this state, and with all the other governmental entities work together, protecting this precious finite resource. So we'll just keep plugging away here, and hopefully that they don't rescind our water policy or something like that. That may be the next thing. Okay, thank you. Lois, any comments? Nope. I have one question for Tori. Is Mr. Gambogi excused absence, or is he unexcused absence? Because I didn't hear anything that he was going to be gone today.
Absent as far as I know at this point.
Is excused or unexcused?
Unexcused.
Unexcused. Okay, well, we can check our emails, maybe give him a jingle and see what's going on. Okay. All right, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.